2 billion people reheat their leftovers today. Most of them believe that if the food is hot enough, it's automatically safe. But here's a question almost nobody asks. What if reheating isn't the danger everyone assumes, and the real risk is hiding somewhere else entirely? I'm Dr. Daniel. For now years, I've studied how everyday food habits, not just what we eat, but how we store and reheat it, change the way our bodies handle the glucose. And this is one of the habits almost nobody questions. When I went through the research for this video, it's not reheating itself that's the problem. It's what happens chemically to certain foods in the world. Gap between the first time you cook them and the second time you heat them back up. Bacteria multiply, fats oxidize, sugars and proteins rearrange into new compounds. And by the time you reheat that food, you're not really reheating the same meal you cooked, you're reheating something chemically different. One of the 4 foods on this list actually proves the opposite of what almost everyone assumes, and I'll get to that one first. Today, I'm walking you through 4 foods that most people reheat without thinking twice, foods that are probably sitting in your refrigerator right now, and what the actual peer-reviewed evidence says is happening to them at a metabolic level. Stay with me until the end, because the 4th food on this list is the one almost nobody sees coming. Here's the strange part. None of this is about changing what you eat. It's about what happens. Before we get into the 4 foods, I need to walk you through 3 biological processes because you'll see them show up again and again. First, oxidation. When fats and proteins are exposed to oxygen during storage in your refrigerator, they become chemically unstable, and heating them a second time accelerates that instability. Second, advanced glycation. When proteins and sugars are exposed to heat more than once, they can form compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. A 2025 case control study out of Tabuk University Hospital looked at 225 adults recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, compared against 450 healthy controls. It found that higher dietary AGE intake was significantly associated with diabetes risk. The proposed mechanism is that AGEs bind to a receptor called directly worsens insulin resistance in the liver and fat tissue. Third, nitrate conversion. Certain vegetables that are naturally high in nitrates can have those nitrates converted into nitrites by bacteria during storage, and under the right conditions, those nitrites can go on to form other compounds entirely. 3 mechanisms: oxidation, glycation, and nitrate conversion. Keep them in mind because you'll see at least one of them in every food we cover today. Food number 1 is cooked rice, and here's where I have to correct something a lot of you have probably heard. There's a popular claim online that reheated rice spikes your blood sugar harder than freshly cooked rice. The actual research says the opposite. A 2015 clinical study published in the Asian Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition took cooked rice, cooled it in the refrigerator for 24 hours, then reheated it, and compared the blood sugar response to freshly cooked rice in the same people. The reheated rice produced a significantly lower glycemic response. Why? Because cooling causes part of the starch to convert into what's called resistant starch, a form your digestive enzymes can't fully break down into glucose. So reheated rice is not your blood sugar's enemy. But there is a real risk with rice, and it has nothing to do with glucose. Rice can carry a bacterium called Bacillus cereus, which survives the original cooking process as a spore. If that rice cools too slowly at room temperature, the spore can wake up and produce a toxin called cereulide, and cereulide is heat stable, meaning reheating does not destroy it. This matters most for older adults because the complications from a foodborne illness tend to hit harder later in life. So here's what to do instead. Cool rice quickly, within about 1 hour of cooking. Refrigerate it right away. Eat it within 24 hours. And never let it sit out on the counter. Foods 3 and 4 are the 2 that most people misunderstand completely, and food number 4 is something that nutritionists recommend eating almost every single day. If you find this kind of practical, evidence-based approach to metabolic health useful, this is exactly the kind of video I publish regularly. No supplements, no fear tactics, just the research and what it actually means for your blood sugar. Now let's talk about protein, because reheating protein involves a completely different mechanism than reheating starch. Number 2 is cooked chicken, and this is probably the most common leftover in any health-conscious kitchen. When animal protein is heated a second time, it undergoes further protein oxidation, and this process can form compounds called heterocyclic amines. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition using dietary data from over 500 adults and older adults in Sao Paulo found that people with higher intake of heterocyclic amines from meat had measurably higher markers of oxidative stress in their blood. And here's why that matters for you specifically. Oxidative stress is one of the exact same pathways we just talked about with advanced glycation. It's a pathway that, over time, worsens insulin resistance. This isn't about one reheated chicken breast ruining it's about a pattern, repeated week after week, quietly adding to your body's inflammatory load. So here's what to do instead. When you can, eat leftover chicken cold, in a salad or a wrap. If you do reheat it, use gentle, lower heat and avoid blasting it in the microwave at full power. There's a fourth mechanism I haven't mentioned yet, and it's going to connect everything we've covered so far to the last two foods on this list. It involves a vegetable that almost every doctor, including me, tells you to eat more of, and an ingredient that most people would never think twice about. Food number 3 is spinach, along with other nitrate-rich vegetables like celery, beets, and Swiss chard. Fresh, these vegetables are genuinely excellent for your cardiovascular health, and I'm not walking that back. The problem isn't reheating itself. It's how long the cooked vegetable
sits before it gets refrigerated. Research reviewed by food safety authorities in Europe shows that once these vegetables are cooked, naturally occurring bacteria can convert
their nitrates into nitrites, and that conversion speeds up the longer the food sits at room temperature. So reheating doesn't cause this problem, poor storage. Timing does. But it means that the spinach you're reheating for lunch may already be carrying a higher nitrite load than it had the day you cooked it. There's also a protective factor worth knowing. Vitamin C, which is naturally present in many of these same vegetables, can help block the conversion of nitrites into other compounds further down the chain. So here's what to do instead. Cool spinach and other leafy greens quickly. Refrigerate within a couple of hours of cooking. And if you have leftovers, eat them cold rather than reheating them. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. I've been reheating rice, chicken, and spinach my entire life, and I'm completely fine. And you might be. This video isn't about one meal or even 1 week. It's about a habit, repeated for years, that quietly stacks small metabolic costs on top of each other. Let me show you the last food because it genuinely surprised even me. Food number 4 is eggs, and I told you this one would surprise you. Eggs are genuinely one of the most nutritionally complete foods available. They're an excellent source of choline, selenium, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin. By almost every nutritional standard, eggs deserve their reputation, but the fat concentrated in the yolk can oxidize further when cooked. The egg is refrigerated and then reheated, forming compounds called oxysterols. Research published in the European Food Research and Technology the formation of one specific oxysterol, called 7-keto-cholesterol, in cooked egg products. A separate review in Food Chemistry cytotoxic effects on human cells and links them to vascular inflammation over time. That inflammatory burden is one more contributor to the exact same insulin resistance pathway we've been building on this entire video. So here's what to do instead. Eat eggs fresh whenever you reasonably can. If you make hard, boiled eggs in advance for the week, store them unpeeled, and eat them cold rather than reheating them. I want to be honest with you about something. When I first went through the research on advanced glycation, heterocyclic amines, nitrate conversion, and oxysterols, my first reaction wasn't alarm. It was frustration. Frustration because none of this information is hidden. It's published in peer-reviewed journals. It's summarized in food safety guidance from health authorities in Europe and the United States. And yet it almost never makes it to the dinner table in a way that's clear enough for people to actually use. There are people meal prepping every Sunday, convinced they're maximizing their health, who have never once been told that how they store and reheat that food matters just as much as what's in it. None of them are doing anything wrong. They simply were never told. Now you have been. Think of a patient I'll call Robert, a composite of patterns I've seen many times in my work. 62 years old, eating what he genuinely considered a clean diet, rice, chicken, spinach, and eggs, prepped every Sunday and reheated daily throughout the week. His fasting glucose kept creeping upward despite what he believed was healthy eating. The food itself wasn't the problem. The habit of storing and reheating parts of it, repeatedly, week after week, it was quietly working against him the entire time. Let's bring this all together. 4 foods, 4 different mechanisms, 1 clear pattern. Food number 1, rice. The blood sugar myth is false. Reheated rice actually produces a lower glycemic response than fresh rice, thanks to resistant starch. The real risk is food safety instead from a heat-stable bacterial toxin. Food number 2, chicken. Reheating drives protein oxidation and the stress, one of the same pathways that worsens insulin resistance. Food number 3, spinach and other nitrate vegetables. The risk isn't reheating, it's storage time before refrigeration, which allows nitrates to convert into nitrites. Food number 4, eggs. Repeated heating of the cholesterol-rich yolk effects. Three biological threads run through all four: oxidative stress, advanced glycation, and inflammatory signaling. Every one of them feeds directly into the same pathway, worsening insulin resistance over time. This isn't fear-mongering, it's food biochemistry, published, peer-reviewed, and consistent across independent research groups. Here's how I would actually approach it. Cook in smaller batches so you naturally generate fewer leftovers to begin with. Cool food quickly, within about 1 hour of cooking.
And refrigerate it right away. Reheat food only once, using gentle heat rather than high power, and avoid blasting it in the microwave. For spinach and other leafy greens specifically, skip the reheating step altogether and eat them cold instead. And invest in a simple food thermometer if you reheat
Protein regularly. Gentle reheating below the recommended safe temperature can meaningfully reduce the formation of many of the compounds we talked about today, compared with high heat rushed reheating. Before you go, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want your answer. Which of these four foods surprised you? Was it rice, the one almost everyone reheats without a second thought? Was it chicken, the protein that most health-conscious meal preppers build their week around? Was it spinach, the vegetable every doctor tells you to eat more of? Or was it eggs? Let me know in the comments below. And if there's someone in your life who meal preps every single week without knowing any of this, a parent, a spouse, a friend,
living on prepped chicken and rice, sharing this video with them takes about 10 seconds, and it might be the most useful 10 seconds of
their week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only, and it does not constitute personal medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Robert is a composite of clinical patterns, not a real patient. Please consult your own physician or a registered dietitian before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you have an existing medical condition. The goal of this channel has never been to make you afraid of food. It's to translate the same evidence available to researchers and public health professionals into something you can actually use in your own kitchen this week. If this helped you see your meal prep differently, the next video I'd point you to breaks down exactly how blood sugar spikes happen after a meal and what actually blunts them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.